Hi everyone, welcome to the bunqr. My name is Garasi and I'm joined here by the lovely Nikita.
Hello.
We're here on this special episode to celebrate the day against homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia. So
let's dive into it.
We're talking right before this, when we were preparing for the podcast, about things like pronouns, or like putting your pronouns in on LinkedIn or like your professional profile, things like that. And I think people have a very wrapped idea of what it actually means to like use people's pronouns correctly, and it's been made into such a big deal, which it can be for certain trans people, but it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for most cis people. That it's just been, I think, radicalized in a way. It's been just exaggerated.
It's almost like the same thing with the whole bathroom debate that we are facing. It's just been totally blown out of the proportion for no reason by like just some alarmist people who are trying to find a very sensitive topic that would be, then later used by politicians and everything. And I do think that pronouns have been fallen the victim of the same trend here.
It's always the jokes but Shakespeare didn't use pronouns, and I'm like, do you know what pronouns are? Yes, he did.
Yeah. I have seen it in many companies that I've worked before, that people like make fun of Slack pronouns and just put some kind of a jokey thing there, like the king or the legend or just don't call me. And I'm always like thinking that they might not know how it could be triggering for a lot of people who really want to take it seriously and want to put effort into like letting other people know what their pronouns are.
Yeah.
And instead they just go and see that this is kind of being not taken seriously and they cannot take this risk anymore.
Yeah. It's the balance of understanding that, yes, this should be normalized, and that's why we ask for cis people to use pronouns and make sure that everyone knows what their pronouns are, because we're trying to make it so people don't assume, and so that trans people or gender non-conforming people can make sure that they share their pronouns so others can refer to them accordingly, essentially. But in the I don't care, I'm not transphobic, so I can put this. It's a journey that gets there. It's like if you I don't think it's making fun of it necessarily. It's just because I'm fine with it, I can just make a joke when we're just going to be taken away from what it actually does. Because I don't know, this is something I shared before, but my pronouns are she, they. I'm genders.
I didn't actually even know about that because you didn't put it anywhere.
It's on my Slack, actually, if you look at my profile. But it's genders.
I'm just so used to talking to you in real life. I never Slack you, so yeah.
But gender's a mess, and I need way more than a podcast to go into it. But my pronouns are she, they, and I used to work at before I worked here, I used to work at a company where I had my pronouns in my signature, and I was in sales, so I got some responses from people that were not super kind, so I eventually took them off.
And you were working here in the Netherlands?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And I was dealing with people only in the EU, which we immediately go like, oh my God, the EU is so progressive, but we forget that, and this is not the best thing to say, but like, I'm not trans, it's not, people are not going to use she, her pronouns with me because I'm a trans man and they're trying to misgender me. Yeah. They're just going to default to she, which is fine and something that it's going to happen. It's all good. But, there are certain places where you might share your pronouns and there are others where you might not feel comfortable enough to do so. My social media, which is fully personal, I have no bigots on my social media, so it's all good. But for example, on LinkedIn, I would never.
Yeah.
I will never. And every time I see somebody who's either gender non-conforming and might have like they, them, or new pronouns, or someone who talks about being trans and have their pronouns in their little LinkedIn thing, I always think, I wish that were me. It will never, though.
Yeah. It's crazy because I see a very confident, like, a queer person in front of me, and I would expect...
You can call me woman. It's sort of, but not quite.
Yes, but still. And still you don't feel comfortable enough to share your, like, pronouns on LinkedIn because you're still afraid that these kind of things might happen to you, which is crazy to me. You know, I come from a very conservative place myself. I moved here from Russia, which is, I mean, been going downhill since 2008, I want to say, in terms of gay rights and all things that are happening around that corner. And I was always imagining European Union, Europe, like the West, as we call it in Russia, to be a much more progressive state when you can actually come and be more open about these things. But seeing your examples and hearing stories from some coworkers that had a not very pleasant experience before in other places makes me feel really disappointed and kind of heartbroken for the dreams and imaginations that I had before.
Well, for me, LinkedIn is technically a form of social media, but I don't share my personal life. And for me, that is very much a representation of where I'm like professionally. And there's a group of people that I want to share certain stuff with. And things like gender or pronouns can be very personal.
And what do you think is the main factor in the way that you differentiate LinkedIn from the rest of your social media?
For me, I'm me. I don't really change that much. And anyone who knows me knows that I don't, it's not like I change a lot outside of work. But to me, there's a difference between the professional side and the personal side. And on my personal social media, I'm fully anonymous. My name is Garasi, but most people online call me Gassi because it's easier to pronounce. And I have a slight pet peeve when people...
Yes, I love it.
It's a pet peeve of mine when people mispronounce the R. So if people cannot roll the R's, I go by Gassi. But I'm fully anonymous, yet the people who follow me are people that I know and trust. And it's a different context. This is not a great thing to say, but I know that I am going to run into different types of queerphobia in a professional environment. It doesn't mean that people are necessarily coming to get me, but certain people who are very powerful are going to be queerphobic.
Of course.
I know that. If I can put as much space as I can between myself and receiving that type of queerphobia, at least directed towards me, I will. And it's also, it is a personal thing. I don't want to talk about my gender with anyone because I don't know what's going on. So I definitely don't want to share it with anyone
else. With other people,
But beyond that, I come here to work. I do what I do. I'm very proud of what I do. I love that I'm a recruiter, and I would think that, I know that being queer makes me a lot more empathetic to the people we recruit, which is something that I'm very proud of. I like that I keep an eye on the diversity within the company. I like that I can look at how many women we've hired, how many people of color we've hired, how many different minorities we've hired, and how that all relates back to being queer, essentially. I'm proud of that. But I want to share that on my terms, and I don't want to open myself to potential attacks unless it's on my terms. Because if I do open myself up to that, and then somebody does use that opportunity to attack me, that's on me. And I'll be very disappointed because this was obviously someone I trusted, but that doesn't mean that I want everybody in their mind.
Yeah. I do believe that it's a bit of a political activism sometimes, that when you put such a small and simple thing as your pronouns on your professional social media, and I totally get that not everyone wants to take this political activism and bring it into their life because it's a lot of pressure. And I mean, it also depends on how much resources generally you have and how many arguments you have prepared for all the bigots that might come along your way. And I really do salute people who have these resources and who do this. And I try to do that myself now when I can share more about my personal life without being judged to the same extent as I was in Russia. But also, I also fully sympathize and empathize with people like you who just, I have many other things to spend my energy to. Like my girlfriend, my house, my hobbies, and I would rather target it towards there rather than go and do something like, have another fight with someone on LinkedIn. So totally fair.
For me, I think it's very different because for a long time, I came out when I was 14. I was like, I'm into girls. I guess I'm bi. That's fine. Then I wasn't, but at the moment, I thought I was bi. And for the longest time, I would wear my queerness as armor. And every time I came out to somebody, because that's something you have to do every day. Every single time you meet a new person, you have to come out to them. And at the beginning, it's scary. Then it just becomes annoying. Like, yeah, let me just get this out of the way because you have to get the shock, fine, whatever. Now, can we actually talk about what we were talking about? And I used to wear it almost like armor. Like, I dare you to be homophobic to me. Now, it's different. Now, just share it as part of the norm, but you always note people's responses when you mention it. I've interviewed at many companies, and it's always it's always a toss-up of during the interview, maybe if they're like, oh, and are you going to move here with a partner, or do you have a cat, or whatever, like stupid questions like that people can ask during the interview process. And it's always do I say girlfriend? Do I say partner?
Yeah.
How hard do I have to avoid using she, her pronouns?
Yeah.
That's it at the end. For example, stupid things. I go get my nails done. There's this lovely woman, but I met her. She was on the other side. She's like maybe like 50 to 60. And I wasn't sure. So I kept saying partner when I talked about my girlfriend. And she immediately assumed it was a man. So now every time I go get my nails done, she's like, how's your boyfriend?
Oh, okay.
And I would respond, my partner is great. Thank you. So now it's awkward because now, when do I tell her that it's
like, do I tell her or do I just keep playing this game?
Yeah, but it's an everyday thing. Every time you exist, you just have to, it's a little step. And there are certain things that I'm fine taking that step with. And there are other things that not. Because if I tell somebody I am potentially non-binary, they're going to have questions. And, buddy, I got the same questions. I don't know. We're all new here.
Yeah.
So it's a complicated thing to try to separate which parts of you show to everybody and which parts you only show to some people, and then to also separate which parts you don't want to share with anybody or which parts you're willing to share but don't want any questions about.
Amen. And since you we briefly mentioned the topic of thinking about the EU as a safe space, I know that you're from Spain, and how are things with the LGBTQ rights in Spain at the moment?
Spain is great in terms of queer rights. We were one of the first countries to make gay marriage legal, so
yes.
And then we just had a trans law passed that makes it so much easier for trans people to get access to a lot of gender affirming care. The law, it also changed a lot of things that are going to be important for me later on. So things like if you are a lesbian couple and one of you gives birth, the other doesn't have to adopt the kid anymore.
They can become mothers. Both
so instead of being
time.
mother and father in the birth certificate, it is now parent 1 and parent 2, essentially, which is a lot better. So we're good in terms of like the law. There has been, however, a big resurgence in hate crimes, and areas I would have considered safe spaces before are not anymore. So Madrid, for example, is known to be very, very queer friendly. But I've gotten hate crime in Madrid. I lived there for 5 years while I was studying, so it's good, but it's not perfect.
Of course, but what places, right?
It's worse than I think people realize, but it's still incredible compared to most other places in the world.
How do you feel here in the Netherlands? Like, do you find
it's pretty much the same?
Yeah,
it's okay. I don't think I'm gonna get actively hate crime, and I think if I did, people would maybe come defend me. But I also, I'm not going to tell my nail lady that I'm a lesbian.
Yeah. I think I just, ever since I moved here, because I moved from such a conservative place, I have, gayed up my life in the sense of opening up to every single person and letting them know that I have a boyfriend, not just like a partner, but a boyfriend. And I'm in this state right now, I think, of just a little bit of overexcitement about being able to share this without judgment. And
but that's good, right?
Yeah.
That's that in comparison that it's better, But have you ever felt like had a moment of being like getting that turned out, that dream that you had that you talked about before?
Yes and no. Yes, I mean, definitely feeling like it's a much greater space in the sense that I can just, fully get an apartment, get registered there with my boyfriend, not lie to my landlady, by the way, who's also a lesbian, and just live this.
Just gather as like
yeah,
Infinity Stone.
yes. You can really like work your way around living here without having to ever pretend to be anyone else, which is fantastic. But at the same time, seeing sometimes like things from alt-right politicians and just sort of more conservative like members of the society here as well sometimes breaks my heart, and it's harder for me when this fairy tale kind of goes south.
Yeah, because you're supposed to be safe now.
Yeah. So seeing things that are not just like really perfect, they kind of mess with me a little bit, and I just like really want them to be changed as quickly as possible. But yeah, of course, I think in terms of my general quality of life and in terms of my general quality of life, it has been a much greater experience for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's hopefully we can still improve it. I like that, when we're talking things like allyship, that there's a lot of like small, just very small things and details that people can do to make everybody feel more comfortable. I like that, like when we got hired here, for example, I immediately felt comfortable enough in my interview to say girlfriend instead of partner. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I came out before I even got hired.
Our logo is a rainbow color at the end of the day. So,
and then people are surprised when it turns out that bunq is actually not homophobic. Like, guess what?
Yeah, indeed.
No, but I think in regards to allyship, I would love to hear your take on it, because I think mine is slightly extreme in that I think that you should always intervene.
Yeah.
But I know that not everybody agrees. So what is your stance?
Like on how to be a good ally?
Yeah.
Like on...
You see somebody being homophobic on the metro. What should you do?
I think just... I mean, you don't have to get yourself in trouble, of course. And
you absolutely should get yourself in trouble.
See, here, I'm just thinking that, of course, I mean, everyone should take a little bit of a personal responsibility, but of course, to the point where it doesn't borderline with your safety being interrogated. And here, I always think that just act towards the world the way you would want to see the world, acting in regards to you. So be kind to one another, just almost like a Christian truth here. But that's what whenever people ask me like how to be a good ally and what does it mean to you, like what does the ally support mean to you, I always just think about generally being kind on a very like natural, very simple level. And also, of course, trying to always ask what would make you feel comfortable, accepting the fact that you have privileges that the other person doesn't have, maybe even saying this out loud in a non-creepy way. And then
it's always the awkward, it's always the middle-aged white women who go like, hello, my name is Maria and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm like, I appreciate it so much. No one talks like that.
yeah. But I still love this like sort of intention that these people have, and I honestly think it's about being considerate and asking in case, even if you like, what would you like me to do? How can I make you feel comfortable? Coming from the place of your privilege, and of course when it's appropriate and doesn't really like put the other person in a weird position where you just like put so much spotlight on them. It sounds tricky, but in the reality, when we're facing this in real life, I do believe that it's quite simple, and it's just about being empathetic, doing something like, we also have a rule here at bunq in the way that we talk with other people is that we want, before we send a message to them or start a conversation or do something, we want to ask ourselves first, would we like to receive this kind of message? Would we like to receive this kind of question? And I think it's the easiest and most simple rule that you could apply in your daily life and be a good ally. Or donate, sponsor.
Give us money.
Give them money. That also is a good way to work, I believe. But it depends on how rich you are, of course. Yeah.
No. Give us all your money. No.
I actually remember that for the last day against homophobia, transphobia, I started a fundraiser here at bunq. There's this grassroots organization that helps people from Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia, queer people who suffered from war in Ukraine in one way or another, like from trying to escape the country or needing like money for medical treatment or whatever it is. And I tried to raise money by just posting in general on random, telling my story, telling why I think it's important. And we were able to raise almost 500 euros.
Oh, wow.
Which I mean, maybe doesn't sound crazy when we're talking just...
It's more than I have. So.
Yeah, but I mean, when it's just grassroots and like when it's all coming from the intentions of like people, regular people who work at bunq, it was super sweet. And I really appreciated this and I thought it was really cool. So that's the kind of way you could be an ally. Help with a word when appropriate. Help
Give
with the
money
coin
when you can.
when you think it's appropriate.
I also think that there's that surrounding yourself by gay people is going to inherently make you better ally. It's not I don't like it
a
when
home
people
task for all of you. Go out and make a gay
Find gay
friend right
friends.
now. Go to a drag show. It's gonna be fun.
It is. No, but I think people very often like to talk about like, you know, when your song comes out as gay, then you realize how bad it gets. I don't like that angle, and I'm not talking about that angle, but I'm talking about the more you surround yourself with gay people, the more easily you're going to pick up small details that are going to make gay people around you who might not, one, realize are gay, two, have come out yet, three, know whether you're an ally or not, realize that they're safe with you. I remember the day that I got here, my first day ever, I didn't know anybody. I was super nervous. I had sort of come out already, so I was like, fine, I'm just going to put my pronouns on my Slack, and this can go either way. And I was talking to different people, and they just went things like no, my sister and her wife, immediate green flag. Yeah. Or talking about like no, because and my son, well, he's trans, but it's my son, whatever. Because they had previously talked about having a daughter, things like that. And it's the small things, the small, just including queer people in your life. You don't have to say I'm an ally, but if you have gay people in your life, you will eventually talk to them about them. Yeah. And I am using gay as an umbrella term for everyone that's queer. But it's just, a lot of the times, it's literally just opening yourself up to having different experiences, and those experiences will influence the way you talk and the way you behave. Or it can also just be, again, small things to mention, like when my cousin came out, or when my friend came out, or my friend and his husband. Small things like that are going to make queer people feel more comfortable with you. That will also mean that if those queer people around you eventually suffer from anything, they're going to be able to come to you. Yeah. And it does, however, place this sort of burden on you of, I will expect you to stand up for me if someone hate crimes me. I don't need you to. I have two fists and I'll fight whoever, but I would like to know that someone's going to stand up for me if necessary. I think back about when I first moved to Madrid, I was dating a girl for the first time. It was my first serious relationship. It lasted 3 weeks. That is how lesbian relationships work. This is a dark story, so it's good that you laughed. Okay. But and I remember we were hate crime because we dared to kiss, and it was a super busy street, like the biggest street in Madrid. It's called Gran Via, and there was this guy who just started shouting bad stuff at us, and there were easily 50 people within earshot, and not a single person stood up to him. Not a single person was like, what the hell, man? Yeah. No one cared. That's mostly it. But it's always the small things. It's always the small comments. It's always the small details that build you as a person in another person's mind. And if all those things line up with you being in queer spaces, it's eventually going to make that person feel more comfortable to be around.
That's a good advice, I think. And that's a way to also not be like this hello kind of ally who's trying to make it sound super fake.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
even if it's not, because most people really don't know how to show that they're allies beyond I'm an ally, and then you're just like, but are you? So it's it doesn't mean that it's fake. It's just a bit less awkward to me.
I have a provocative question for you. Do you believe in such thing as positive discrimination? And like, you know, I know that in a lot of places and a lot of initiatives that target necessarily like LGBTQ community, like even Pride itself, right? The Pride event, like why don't straight people have Pride events? Or when you as an employer, for example, say that you want to hire more women and LGBTQ people, people will start to say, oh my God, like why do we need to hire specifically these groups? Maybe they're just not even as good as the straight / male people here, but they would just be hired because of their sexual orientation or because of their gender. Do you believe that this such thing as positive discrimination exists, or do you think it's a hoax?
I think it's a complicated topic. I like that it provides us sort of a threshold in the way that companies set up like KPIs and OKRs. Okay, this is what we're shooting for. I like that. I like that it provides data, and I like that it allows for people to have something to aspire to.
Yeah.
I also think that saying we want to do better but not having an actual objective is very much, what's the word, the all talk no show.
Yeah.
It's okay, you want to do better, but how are you going to do better?
Yes.
So I like them in that way. However, I do wish there was a better fix. I think it is very much targeting the symptom, right? It is targeting the symptom of homophobia is we don't hire gay people. The symptom of misogyny is we don't hire women, or we don't hire enough women. That's great. So let's treat the symptom. Let's hire more women. But it's not actually addressing the issue, which is our standards for women during interviews different? Are women applying less because
they don't think that they're good enough?
Yeah, there's a standard that it's so funny that men will apply to a job if they feel like they fulfill 50% or more of the requirements, and women only apply to a role if they fulfill like 90% plus of the requirements, which is insane.
I know.
Because as a recruiter, I see so many people, I'm like, you're
just graduated from university and you want to be a CEO of our company.
Yes, it's and doesn't necessarily have to do with gender, but you can see that. So how about we address that so that we don't actually have to set quotas? But it also, we're a tech company. Tech positions and in general, the tech market is very much male-dominated. So how do we combat that? Let's make the tech market more friendly to women. That's great. That's going to take 10 years.
Yeah.
How about we try to fix the problem now? So I think it's a good Band-Aid solution, but it should definitely not be the only solution that people take, and it should 100% be accompanied by 1,000 other things that we need to do to ensure that things go well.
Thanks everyone for watching. We all hope that you enjoyed this episode, and feel free to share your experiences in the comments down below.
We would love to have you back for the next episode, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it.
Bye-bye.